High five.
High five.
High five. High five.
High five.
High five. High five.
You're really good at this.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening.
It's a what podcast? High five, which means, Barry, up top, buddy.
High five, man. All right.
All right, so a quick little clip from a what podcast from the past. I always like when our guys, our people, tell the story of how they went to Bonnaroo before they actually played Bonnaroo. Those stories are always my favorite.
And this might be my favorite of those. Yeah, I agree. This was so funny. And it was early on in our show, right? I mean, it's first year. And if you remember, and I know you do, we had so much fun with Paul Janeway from St. Paul and the Broken Bones that we made 2 episodes.
Yeah. Our first double. It was our first double episode. I just love hearing how much the artists that play Bonnaroo love Bonnaroo before they ever got on stage, right? And the just joy that comes out of his voice when he's telling the story of walking around being the what was he, parking cars?
Security.
Was he security, yeah. And he's walking around loving this festival and saying to himself, all I want to do is play this festival one day.
And he actually, and he talks about it in this clip, he says, I can sing as well as those guys. Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, you don't say, Paul. Yeah, you don't say.
That's really cool to hear him talk about that. It changed his life. I mean,
and honestly, this interview was one of those interviews that changed the course of the podcast, really, because it gave us it buoyed us to talk to more artists and be a little light and fun. And boy, this story, I tell this story all the time. I love this story so much.
It's one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, you're exactly right. When it happened, I think we both said I think you and I both, when we hung up with him, said, that's one of the best interviews I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. Well, let's get to it. It's a What Podcast High Five. Paul Janeway from St. Paul and the Broken Bones telling a story about his first ever Bonnaroo.
But we also talked at Bonnaroo. You told me a great story, which is one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you. You actually worked Bonnaroo, right? Didn't you volunteer?
I did. I had actually, the first time I went, slept in my car. I was working at a tanning bed.
What?
No joke. Yeah. I'm the most untanned person on the planet.
You're like a freshly peeled apple.
Yeah. It's like, I think Radiohead was playing. It was the first year Radiohead played. And I was working at a tanning bed because I didn't have a car, so I had to walk there. It was the closest thing I could walk to. And so I spent my whole month's paycheck on a Bonnaroo ticket to go see Radiohead. And I slept in my car, and that was terrible. So the year that Jay-Z and Stevie Wonder played.
God, that was my favorite year of Bonnaroo history, man.
Yeah, I couldn't afford a ticket. And, the whole thing that they dangle is like, hey, you can work security.
Yeah.
We'll pay you, like, minimum wage. But guess what? You do a 12-hour shift, and then you get 12 hours off. And you're like, this sounds amazing. This is an amazing deal.
Uh-huh.
It's not an amazing deal.
That 12 hours off is pretty good.
The 12 hours, sure. But when I got sun poison on Thursday on my legs, I was just like, this is awful. So what is funny, though, so the first night I was so tired that I was like, I can't go see it. But Stevie Wonder and Jay-Z were playing, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go. I got to go see that. So I started watching Stevie Wonder. He gets off. Jay-Z's about to go on. I'm trying to get close. And I feel something warm running down my back. Oh. And I turn around, and there is a giant man who is on some sort of drugs peeing on my back.
Oh, my God.
I am not kidding.
Oh, my God.
I am not kidding. And I turn around, and I was like, what's going on right now? And what does my life come to? And then I turn back around, and the guy's already, shot out. And I was just like, you know what? I've got sun poison. This is awful. I'm going to watch Jay-Z with pee on my back. And that's what I did.
The delicate touch of Paul Janeway, when a man is peeing on him, he turns around and he says, hey, so what's going on here?
Yeah. He was a giant. What was I going to do?
What was your post? What did you actually have to do at Bonnaroo? What was your job?
I was there. There was a VIP with a VIP. I was at the door or at the gate.
Right.
Gate, and it was right And so there was two things I had to do. Check credentials, and then also also make sure that hippies did not stay in the road, because there was trucks going 40 miles an hour back there.
Yeah.
And so people just like, man, just chill out. And I'm like, you're going to die. Get out of the road.
That was right around the same year the guy got hit by the porta potty cleanup truck, wasn't it?
That's my point. And
Yeah.
so what was so magical for me, I even get like kind of emotional thinking about it, because doing that and Bonnaroo being so close to Birmingham, and me, you know what I mean? Like spending all my money on a Bonnaroo ticket, and then in 2014 getting to play it, it was honestly like there are a few points in my life or professionally in this that I vividly remember. And that's one of them, because it felt like a dream. It felt like I remember being a patron and sitting and going, I think I sing better than they do. Then having a moment and then being on stage. I just tried to soak it in all day.
Thank you so much, Bonnaroo. We are St. Paul and the Broken Bones from Birmingham, Alabama.
What podcast? High five, Paul Janeway, St. Paul and the Broken Bones. Next week, another high five from Paul Janeway. This interview that you can go back and listen to the full thing is available on thewhatpodcast.com. But next week is a story that, when they get big and they blow up and they don't really know that it's their time and it's their moment, that's next week with Paul Janeway. There's so much in this interview that we could have pulled, but we like these clips in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can also hear it on the Consequence Network, where we are, you can find all of our podcasts, but just definitely go back and listen to both of these. It's like we said, it's 2 episodes and it's a lot of fun.
It is so much fun. And I think that the great thing about Paul is that he feels as though a dude that you could literally do this all day with.
Yeah.
He has got stories, and he loves music so much. He loves these artists so much. I just want to hang out with him. I just sort of like, what? Wait, we have to go?
Yeah,
Please,
don't hang out. Don't
please
go.
Stay.
He's also that guy that every single person who sees the band for the first time says, this guy sings the blues? Do
Yeah.
What?
There is something about St. Paul that the first show is always the one that makes your head turn, right?
Yeah.
I
That
will
comes
say-
out of that mouth.
That's right. He looks like that. He looks like my accountant.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the guy who works for my accountant. He's not
That's
even
right.
the accountant.
Yeah. All right. So next week, another high five with Paul Janeway. Until then, love you. Bye.
Consequence Podcast Network.